welcome to the next podcast, guys. Today we are just kidding. Today is for the pre-optometry students. We are going to be speaking to the students who are interested in optometry and got a bunch of questions. So let's introduce everyone. My name is Svetlana.
My name is Doug.
You said that like a robot.
My name is Doug.
Yes, much better. I'm just Deep, JD. Good to be here.
What's the vibe today? Like,
do we have that vibes?
Apparently we're in like a robot vibe. I don't really know. I didn't get the memo before starting. Should I? I don't have a robot voice.
You just need to do it now.
I'm Dr. Nadia.
I think that was just a little...
Was that the vibe?
It was a little sensual. I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
Yeah, that was not a robot vibe. Try again.
This is awkward.
How's everybody doing today?
I think everyone's a little tired today.
We are.
We got this.
We are tired. All right, guys, let's jump into the first question. The first question here: how do I know optometry school is for me? And another question came up with this one, so I'm going to put these two together. Is optometry school for you if you don't like physics? Let's have JD go first. What are your thoughts?
Do you ever really know?
Good point.
Yeah, right. So I think with any career or any choice you make, you're fully not 100% sure. Would I use physics to make the basis for what my career is going to be? No. And frankly, there's only a certain amount of physics that you apply on a day-to-day basis. So I think there's optometry school things you learn, and then there's real life scenarios what you actually use. So physics on a day-to-day basis, of course, it's an important component, but not something I would say if I don't like physics, I wouldn't go into optometry for. In terms of how I would choose optometry, if I would do it, I think I would try to shadow different people, some of the different modalities. But frankly, I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you myself. I'm still questioning things and still trying to figure out how to make this career into what I want it. But I think that's how everything works. Like you just jump in, you try things, you try maybe private practice, medical, whatever it may be, and you try to make your career into a way that you enjoy it. What are your thoughts, Nadia, since you're also working now?
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm still trying to figure it out. I think I knew that I wanted to do this because of the fact that I had like shadowed, I guess. And I was like, oh, I can see myself doing this, but do you really know until you get to it kind of thing? And it's a little different than I guess I thought it would be. Because we just do a lot more medical than I like was expecting. I think, I thought it was like, oh, it's going to be straightforward. I'm going to make people see. It's going to be great. And then at the end of the day, now my favorite thing is like, oh, do you have glaucoma? Let me take out that foreign body. Like that's just the avenue that I fell in love with more, like the disease and all that kind of management stuff more than like the refraction part that I thought was going to be like the bread and butter, So, I don't think physics is I was not that great at physics. I didn't take a physics class, I don't think. So I just had to like...
Are you sure you're an eye doctor?
Yeah.
I mean, like pre-optometry wise.
You
was
never
it required?
took physics?
Maybe I did. I don't remember.
Yeah,
honestly, it was probably like
definitely
whatever the like, basic one was, because I don't even remember taking it.
You completely just figured it out. It was
took baby physics.
Traumatic of an experience.
Yeah, it's like not that hard, I guess, or like important in my life. Like not like the orgos and stuff. I just kind of like didn't like. I don't know. I think I took it as like an afterthought, like when I was doing like prereqs. And then I just used like Chad's videos when I was studying for the OAT. So it's not like a big deal.
Definitely.
I think like math is important. There's a lot of math. I use math every day. I'm a mathematician every single day that I am in, I'm like doing sphere still, you do a lot of like calculations in that sense. So I think you have to like the math and the science part. I don't think physics specifically. I don't know. Doug, what do you think?
I feel like optometry is so cool. There's just like so many different avenues you can utilize and go into. It's not just about glasses and contacts. There's sports vision, which I'm into. There's vision therapy, low vision, and medical. So many different avenues. So I think, um, like JD said, you kind of just have to jump in and get your feet wet, and go try it out and see if you like it. What I did, was work at Lens Crafters part time in undergrad. I started that sophomore year of college, and that helped me just really be like, yeah, I can do this. I can see myself doing this for the rest of my life. So definitely get that experience. You can get money from obviously working part time too. So yeah, and physics, yeah, I wasn't the best of physics either, but I don't feel like you need it that much. And once you get into school, it's not you really don't use much physics at all. I mean, yeah, physics is in optics. Physics is the essence of optics, but it's not super necessary.
Yeah, that's good hearing all your perspectives. I'm just going to jump in and say I agree too. How do we know optometry school is for you? Just like Doug said, you don't know until you actually do it. Go shadow, go watch what a doctor does. Um, you just you have to put yourself out there. If you think you're interested in optometry, I would definitely see go to an optometrist office and an ophthalmology office to see both sides of eye care and determine which side of eye care you could see yourself doing more and more of the surgical, or not. And definitely physics is not all about optometry school. I wouldn't worry about any of that. The physics in undergrad is not the same as opto school, so you're going to be fine. We'll go into the next question then, guys. What was the transition like from undergrad to optometry school? Let's have Nadia go first on this one.
I had
And
a
I know
little different
gap
path.
years might be talked about
Yeah.
too here.
So I went from undergrad into my master's. So I did a master's and then I had like kind of a gap year where I was doing like my like prereqs and stuff for optometry school. I think that's when I probably took my physics class. It's not even coming back to me. It's been so long. So I had a little gap year where I was like working in a plastic surgeon's office. I just did like front desk work and I was studying for the OAT and I was doing that. So I had a little break, which was nice. But then when I got into school, it was like, you know, like hit the floor running kind of thing. I think it was easy in a sense because everyone's going through it at the same time, even though you might have all had different paths to get there. So like having those classmates that I could rely on and study with, I think made the transition easier because you're kind of all trying to figure things out at first. I thought that my master's did help me with all of those like first year prereq, because in first year it's kind of like we have like classes with like the dental kids and stuff. It was like histology, things like that. So I thought having that background was nice. So that kind of helped. But then there was stuff that I had no idea about. Like I had not looked at a lensometer in my life. So that was more difficult for me versus like people who had like the optician background and things like that. So I think it just depends. I think everyone's going to have like kind of a different journey to get there. And there's going to be different aspects that kind of gravitate towards some people and transition them easier in a sense. And I moved like really far from homes because I was in Florida and I went all the way to California. But I thought that since I was like surrounded by like people that were kind of like I was going to be with forever, that transition part of it wasn't as bad either. So, Doug?
Yeah, my path was similar to yours in the essence of after school. I still had to finish some prerequisites after undergrad, so I moved back home. I did a bunch of prerequisites at all the community colleges and such, just trying to get it all done. And then after that, I did a master's in health administration as well. My OATs and my GPA wasn't as good the first time I took the OAT, so I got advice from an admissions counselor at ICU to take a master's program to show that I can handle intense course load, and be ready for optometry school. So I did that. I moved from California to Philadelphia to do that. And with that, I was able to get more experience in the field because I started working as a GM in a national vision inside of Walmart. So I got the managerial side of experience, the managing a business side, as well as having all the other optical stuff. So instead of Nadia's perspective, for me, I was able to be really good at lensometry and lens stuff and things like that. What about you, JD?
I would say it's challenging too. I think you both brought up a lot of things that triggered me or reminded me of the past. Definitely moving to a new state or new environment is challenging. And then getting back into the studying from undergrad, I don't think it's like undergrad. I do think one of the benefits, like you pointed out, Nadia, was that you're with like-minded people. Like even now coming outside of school, I'm like, wow, like when you're dealing with so many people who are studying the same types of coursework that you're doing and have lived in situations or been in situations that you've been in, it's a way different experience than like even now outside, like when you're working with other people, patients or technicians, it's a completely different experience. So nice to have that camaraderie in school, but definitely a hard transition when you're starting graduate school, having to stay up those late hours, especially in the beginning. You're learning a lot about like technical knowledge that maybe is not necessarily applicable or maybe they can't see is going to be applied in clinic. And so I think that the beginning is quite challenging, but I think that's where you just got to kind of push through, and it just builds upon each other. If you can get through first year, that means you can get through disease in second year. That means you can get through clinic and boards in third year. That means you can get through rotations in fourth year. That means you can get through practicing. It just builds upon each other.
Yeah, I agree. I see how everything builds now in second year, and I 100% like if you get through first year, you can definitely get through second year. I think first year is the worst. For me, my story was a little different because I started applying to optometry school in my junior year of college. So I graduated college in 2021. I think that was in May of 2021. And then I entered optometry school in August of 2021. So I just had that summer break before starting. And I wish that I did take a gap year because I think it was a lot. My mentality at the time was, oh, I just want to get done with school and be done with it and like graduate early and, like start work or start my career right away. But looking back at it, it's a lot of, I don't know, optometry school is so overwhelming sometimes. And it's like, even if I took 1 year or 2 years off, I would have been fine. I wish too, I also like worked in between to build like a little bit of money before going into school because taking everything out on loans too is sometimes not the best option. I mean, everyone's different financially. So I wish that I did take at least a year or two off because besides the financial reasons, burnout is a real thing, and going in straight from undergrad, then going straight into optometry school where it's way more demanding and it's a completely different dynamic of schooling. It's hard. Like the difference that I see specifically from undergrad to optometry school is like you have your didactic courses. And of course, in undergrad, you go to lab, like you go to OChem lab or you go to chemistry lab, but that's not exactly related to your future career. Once you're in optometry school, you have your lab is like pre-clinic or practicing your like clinical skills. So your schedule is separated from like didactic courses to like clinical skills lab, like things that you're going to actually be doing on patients. And I think that just that transition is really different from something you do in undergrad.
Ooh, so next, you already jumped into it. So gap year or no gap year?
Yeah, I'd say at least a year. Take a gap year. What would you guys say?
I don't know. I feel like no for me. I would have rather just kind of started, I guess. I don't know, but I'm a little bit older, so I would just wanted to kind of like get my life started. So I mean, we'll talk about this later, but that was one of the things that like turned me away from residency because I was like, well, I'm already going to be 34 when I graduate. I'm not doing a residency and then getting my life started. Like I'm ready to get my life started. So I think everyone's a little different. I mean, everything happens for a reason. I'm glad I had a gap time in my life, because I was able to kind of like take a mental break. I think that a lot of the unknowns before you get into school, that was some of the hardest times. I think that in my life, if I can think back, that time that I was applying to school was like the second most stressful time of my life, like the second most like draining emotionally, and like the first is like boards, right? Part one. That was like the most depressed I've been. So I think that what was my point? When you have like a gap year, you kind of can like manage that more than if you're like in school trying to do finals and all that and you're still applying, because the unknown of that part is so hard. You are going on interviews and you don't hear back, and then you're trying to do your OATs, and then you're applying. You have to spend all this money or have to travel. You're trying to figure out where your life is, and you just don't know if you're going to get accepted. You don't know where you're going to be. If you had asked me like, hey, you're going to end up in California, and did you know? I'd be like, no, absolutely not. So I think that just not knowing and having to go through school, that would have been a little harder in a sense. I don't know, in my opinion.
I feel like burnout is real, but if you can get in, get in. Like, it's a journey. It's tough to get in. Just do your thing. If you can get in, get in. If not, take that year, get better, hone your craft, and apply. But get in.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
100%.
And if it's your dream and this is what you want, it's going to happen. I know a girl that I went to grad school with. She wanted to go to med school. And I graduated in like 2015 from my master's program. And she just now got in because she's just never gave up. She just kept trying. I don't know how many application cycles it's been now. It's got to have been like 6 or so. But she did it, and now she's living her dream, and it happens. And then it's kind of like the past doesn't matter, because your future, you're going to be however old anyway. You might as well be a doctor.
Follow your heart. Follow your heart.
Anything you want
Is
to
that
add,
the vibe?
JD?
Or, follow your heart, follow your mind. Like, there's a lot of personal life questions you have to ask yourself too. Like now, as a graduate from 3 years ago, a lot of my friends are having, about 3 or 4 of my classmates have had babies, or people are getting married. And so do you want to do those things before you went to school, or you want to do it after? How do you want to time this? I think those are important questions to ask yourself. And so if you feel that, hey, maybe getting school done with and then starting my personal life is a great idea and it makes sense for you, I think that's what you should do. But I guess that's where we're saying it's like individualized. I think that's where it's like, to Savet's point, it doesn't have to be in a box. You have to go straight out. Maybe there are benefits of going to clinic for a year and working as a tech and then coming out of it. Or maybe, like Nadia said, it's just best for me to go straight in and save time for my journey. I think you just got to ask yourself, like, what makes sense for you?
Yeah.
You do you, honey boo boo.
Do you, boo?
Is there a
Okay.
sound effect for that? I don't.
I don't know.
We have sound effects now, so
We do. Sound effects are on hold because my mouse has disappeared yet again.
no problem. We'll make our own. But
Perfect. There we go. That will lead us into the next question. And this is a common question, guys. What topics should people be studying before they enter optometry school? Everyone wants to know. Go ahead, Doug. Take it away.
Topics to study before optometry school. I mean, does this mean like they've already gotten in and then they're like trying to like, what should I be ready for?
Yeah,
I'd say
exactly.
nah.
They already
Take
got
that,
in.
enjoy that summer. Just chill. Go on a trip. Take a flight. Take a road trip. Do whatever. Play basketball. Go dive into an ocean. Go on your craziest roller coaster. Just survive. Live and then get in school. You don't need to like pre-study for anything because they give you everything you got to study for anyway. So you're good. Don't worry about that.
I agree. I was thinking the whole time, like, I think sometimes you study out of fear And that happens in school a lot where maybe you don't even need this, but it makes you calm. And if you really need to feel calm, then sure, we can give you something to study. But really, I agree with Doug. You got to be refreshed. So if I had to give a tip, maybe have good conversations with your family, maybe get a therapist, get a life coach. Make sure you're sure about this decision. Make sure you don't look back. Have these conversations about what's going to motivate you for the next 4 years. I remember even the week before I started, I was having this dilemma: should I do this or not? And my cousin, who's a dentist, who's older, sat me down and was like, "Hey, this is something that's going to give you security for the rest of your life. This is something you've already worked towards getting to. You got this. Let's do these 4 years." And that's something I remembered, something I felt like I can channel myself back to. So that's why I'd say get your mind straight, whether it's reading an audiobook, talking to a life coach. Get your mind straight. Don't worry about necessarily the clinical content if you've already gotten in.
Yeah, I was taking that question as like, not like the summer before, but maybe like an undergrad, what classes they should be taking possibly to prepare.
Well, she said you've already gotten in at this point, so.
Oh, when you've already gotten in? Yeah, don't do anything.
Yeah, they're already in.
But if you're taking classes in undergrad and you're wondering like what's going to help with your like basis, I would say like anatomy, probably. Like none of that orgo stuff, we never used that kind of thing. Physiology, I think, was really helpful. That really helped me on like having that kind of basis from my master's, helped me on boards. Like I never had to study that stuff because I just remembered it from when I studied that before. So like those two classes, I think, help you with like a foundation and things that you're going to do in optometry school, because you're not going to learn everything about the eyeball in your anatomy class, but at least it gives you like a basis of how to like study and how to like kind of take on that kind of topic, I guess, if that makes sense. And then the physiology behind everything is so important. I think everyone knows, especially Doug, now that you're kind of like studying for boards and stuff, like knowing the physiology behind how something works is the basis for everything, right? So those two classes, I think, were the most helpful in my undergrad life. But if you're trying to study before you go in, don't do it. Just relax.
Yeah, I'd say the same thing. You have plenty of time to study once you're actually in school. And anatomy and physiology are probably like one of the top classes that you will use, just like Nadia said. But besides that, don't waste your time trying to study anything. Go on a trip. Go into the ocean like Doug recommended. Just jump in there and stay there.
Deep sea diving.
Oh.
Yep.
Did you guys do any cool things before you got into school?
I went to Paris and Italy, I think, before. That was my summer trip.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oui.
Well, it's because I graduated college and then we went. Yeah, it was like my
nice.
college.
Right.
Oh, what can I say?
I've never been to Paris. I'm in optometry school.
Oh. Okay, we need to go together when I graduate.
Okay, we'll go together. No problem. The podcast live from Paris.
Oh, let's do
Oh,
that.
that'd be great.
Will that be fun?
Yeah. Okay.
So much fun.
Me, like right the little day after I took my OAT, we went to Nashville on a girls trip, and that was great. Like literally, I was on the plane. No, where do we go?
Mm.
No, the day after I took my OAT, we went to Colombia
Okay.
on a trip.
Even better.
Yeah.
Wow.
I remember it because I got on the plane and my friends were in dental school and they were like, yeah, we're dentists. And they were like, but our friend here, she's going to be an optometrist. And I was like, I literally just took my entrance exam. You guys need to relax. And they were like bringing us wine on our trip. And I was like, this is the best flight ever. Like I was having a great time. Yeah. Shout out to Delta, bro. It was great.
Oh, wow.
And then after that, I think that next, like right before I left for California, we went to Nashville. I went on 2 trips that year.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. JD, what'd you do?
I worked in sales. I sold IT services for 6 months, and I thought that was a really good experience.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sell us
Cool.
some IT right now, JD.
All right. So tell me about your where do you store your information, and where do you put your technology? I don't know. Whatever. I don't do this anymore.
I don't feel sold.
It's all in the cloud.
Anyway,
Yeah.
tell me who's in charge of your ID department. I'd like to speak to them about our cloud services and see if I can send an appointment. Boom.
Of
That's
course.
it. Simple.
Let me
I think
refer you.
that was
That
good
was great.
because it taught like I had to walk into buildings that said no soliciting, and people would look at you and people don't want to talk to you, and you sometimes you're like, fuck, I don't really want to walk in this building, but I've got to do it. It's part of my job. And so I think there was a work ethic there that could be applied later on. So I think that was helpful. And then
Nice.
obviously had normal shenanigans too before school. Went to Vegas and had some times with friends, but I think working in a different field was really helpful and built me in a different way. So I would say that get a job somewhere completely different, or maybe in a different field that may invigorate you in some way.
Yeah, I actually did that too before getting into school. I was working for this men's subscription clothing company called 5-4. And yeah, I did that. We were pretty much like on the retention team. If someone wanted to cancel their monthly subscription, give them a discount, sign up for another month. And then I worked for their like social media team for a little bit. So yeah, I definitely did something different outside of optometry before getting in. And in terms of for like fun, I had a going away party. I was living in Philly at the time, and had all my homies come through. Had cake everywhere. Don't remember much. It was lit.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Okay, so we're gonna backtrack a little bit. Let's pretend that we're applying to optometry school. So that's where this question comes from.
Here comes the
And
stress. Okay.
people,
Let me pretend.
yeah.
Nadia,
Go
Nadia,
back
hold
in
the tears.
time.
Hold back the tears, Nadia.
Let me go back to the second most depressing time of my life.
Okay, what was the first? Hold on.
The
Boards.
first was boards.
Boards.
Oh,
I
Okay,
need
okay.
to re-listen to the podcast.
you're right. You're right. My bad. I was listening. I was there.
Got it. Perfect.
Okay, I just forgot for a second. I remember now. Okay, back in time. Does the OAT and GPA really matter? We're applying to optometry school. Tell me if it matters. What are your thoughts? Let's go with Nadia.
When I'm applying,
Yeah, so like, what would you tell a student who's going to be applying and they're in the transition zone of taking their OAT, finishing up classes, and they asked you, does the OAT and my GPA really matter to get accepted into school?
yes. I think they filter. I think they filter, I would say, like based on GPA and stuff. So if you want to be competitive, like of course, putting your best foot forward is always the way to go. For me, I, like Doug, did not have a great undergrad GPA. I mean, I'll just say, like, I barely graduated. I think that I had like maybe like a 2.1 GPA in undergrad, which is why I did my master's, because I was like, okay, well, now I have to make up for it. So that's when I really had to kick in at a gear, because I feel like I had something to prove. And so for me, I never was like, there's an option B, there's just option A. So we're going to have to do whatever it is that it takes to get to option A. So let's just do it all. So I did my master's and I graduated with like a 3.5 GPA. And it wasn't easy because in undergrad, I just didn't have the right skills that I needed to study. I was like very distracted. I felt like it was my first time kind of like having freedom. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I want. So in that sense, I kind of dropped the ball, but then I tried to make up for it with my GPA in my master's program. Subsequently, when I was applying to Nova, they said, oh, based on your undergrad GPA, you have to do the 5-year program. Even though I had successfully completed master's program and I had like the 3.5 GPA graduating, they said it doesn't matter because everything gets added together. So in the end, it was not enough to apply because they have certain criteria. I think each school has like a certain level that you have to have before you, I'm remembering back now, guys, am I wrong? Like everyone has like a certain threshold GPA, if I'm not mistaken, that you're supposed to meet.
Pretty much.
So in that sense, I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to do the 5-year program because I can just go to like a regular 4-year program. So I really had to kick it into gear with my OATs. So I studied really hard for it. I took a prep course called, it was iPrep Dental, because, you know, the OAT is pretty close to the DAT, except we have physics. And if anyone's taking the OAT, I would wholeheartedly recommend it. I ended up getting, this is not bragging, I'm just saying, a 390, and I think it's out of 400. Is it not?
Oh, it is.
Okay.
That is so good.
Mic drop.
Oh my
End the
goodness.
episode right there. We're done. All right. That's it.
I know.
So I had a perfect score.
How do I
in
turn
2
on the
sections.
clapping? Or the
Yeah, there we go. Brr, 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 brr.
Right. So not saying like, oh, look how great I am. I'm telling you guys, I was not that smart. So if I could do it, you can do it. It's really not that like difficult if you like put in the time and you have the right like prep work and back, you know, I had a lot of support. I think the prep course kind of helped me pace myself in the right way and what I needed to know. So in that sense, you know, I made up for the fact that I didn't have this great GPA with my OATs. So that pulled a lot of the weight. So I think both are important. Don't emphasize one or the other. If you have both, great. If you have one better than the other, you kind of have leverage in that sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
JD, you
so
want to comment?
I'll just go in because I'm pretty similar to yours in terms of low GPA in undergrad. I had a 2.54. So I had you beat Nadia, but you beat me in OAT score, so it's all good.
I actually don't remember. I think I'm just thinking back. It was so long ago. So I don't
Right, it
know.
was a long time. But yeah, they're both important. And if you do have low GPAs, definitely just grind hard on the OAT because they do see that. And you might have to take a master's like we both did too. Like I said, to just show that you can handle the intense course load of a professional graduate upper level degree. JD, what about you?
Yeah, I think the question was, is GPA and OAT important? And yes, it is very important. So, like, I guess I would look at them as like, what is that at the park when you go? It's a teeter-totter when someone's on the bottom, someone's on the top. Yeah. So let's say, yeah, there you go. So
The
let's
seesaw?
Seesaw.
Seesaw, yeah.
Seesaw. There you go. Not the
I was
slide.
I was with teeter totter. I thought it was that.
I was more of a Michael Bars guy, obviously.
Tater totter? Wow. I'm getting hungry.
Did someone say tater tots?
The tater tot?
Anyways,
Potato.
enough park anatomy there. So I would say that it's like a seesaw. So if your GPA is higher, you maybe don't need to do as well in the OAT and vice versa. So I think we're all sharing some personal stories about where maybe it's deficient, how to get it up, and then also make up for it. The OAT is helpful in the sense that it's a uniform test. No matter what college you're going to, if you go to Mount Sac, maybe the smallest community college or a big community college, or you're going to UCLA, this is a test that both these people are taking that are on like a even playing field that you can compare to apples and apples. Whereas if you have a 3.6 at UCLA versus 3.6 at a community college and then at a smaller college, that matters, and it should matter because some of these courses, in especially biology field, they are curved, and so you're competing against other students who are similar to you. And so if you're going to a higher school, that may give you a little boost in that sense. So that's why the OAT can be really helpful because you're all taking the same test. So if Nadia's 390 is the same 390 that anybody else will take, or vice versa with their numbers. So my personal story was, I think I was struggling with GPA, was able to get it up. Studied really hard for the OAT, definitely crushed the OAT. My weakness there was on the reading comprehension section. It scored from 200 to 400, so 200 is minimum if you just put your name. And I think I got a 210 or 230 for reading comprehension, but everything else was crushed, right? There was a school, SDCO actually told me they wanted me to retake it just for the reading comprehension. I actually said, no, I'm not going to do that because I felt that didn't identify.
Yeah, put your foot down. Yeah.
And I can understand why school would do that. I think schools are saying if someone is so deficient in a certain area, it may correlate to them not passing boards. It wasn't true for the case for me. However, I can understand how that might be a criteria where they want you to retake it and do it. And so I think the point of the story was my GPA was good enough and my OAT scores overall, especially the science one, were good enough where I personally didn't have to do that. So think of it as if you got to make up for one area, then maybe you got to do better in the other. If you're balanced, you may be fine. Some of these schools will give actually feedback after interviews and after applying, and so that's where take their feedback in a great way and try to apply it. Maybe it's I need to retake human anatomy at a community college over the summer. Maybe it's I need to do a master's program to wipe some of those things out. Feel free to take that feedback. And yeah, it's a huge priority. Sadly, it's not just do you have a good personality and good ambitions and good interview. You need to be good in the textbook too.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something nice where it was like, know what schools want. Like I said, Nova wanted like everything to be together. So they add your GPA together. It doesn't matter if you have a master's. And then some schools will allow you to kind of make up for that with the math, so you kind of have to do research about where you want to go and what they're expecting.
I'm just going to piggyback off of what everyone said. When you're doing that kind of research for a school, just go ahead and email the admissions teams because you will get like the best response from each school individually on what they will help you with. And just like what JD was talking about, if you have like a high undergrad GPA, you can get like an average OAT and be quote unquote good. Some school will accept you. If you have a low GPA, take a master's or just do really well on the OAT, score really high like Miss Nadia or Dr. Nadia, and you'll do great and you'll get in. Hopefully, right? Hopefully. And then I think when I was applying, people told me your OAT and your GPA, they're kind of like what can we call it? Maybe like if we're going off the playground analogy, like the slide, I don't know, like the slide in to get an interview. Like you kind of have to meet some kind of like prerequisite through your GPA and through your OAT for them to want to like interview you almost. Of course, like your personal statement and who you are and your character, your personality, all your experiences are going to get you like accepted into a school. But it's like your GPA and your OAT that are really going to help you get that initial interview because like what JD was saying, if you show or if they think that you won't be able to pass the boards, they're going to ask you to be retaking the OAT. And that's something that actually happened to me. It's kind of like the next topic on how we studied for the OAT. When I first studied for the OAT the first time, because I took the OAT twice, I feel like I didn't do a lot of practice tests and I studied on my own. I didn't do any, like any programs or I didn't get like any external help. I thought I would just use like the blue book. Do you guys remember the blue book, the blue OAT book?
No, I didn't use that one. I used OAT Destroyer. I don't know if you guys use that.
Oh, I heard of that. Yeah.
I had Kaplan.
No, I used the big. Yes, Kaplan. That one. I used that.
Chad was clutch.
Chad's videos though,
Yeah.
that went crazy.
Yeah, that was my next one that I used when I took it twice. The second time around, I was using Chad and all that, and it really helped.
Thank you. Next.
And I did
Likewise.
well. Yeah. But also nowadays, because of COVID, there's some schools that don't even require you to take the OAT. So just
Is
have
that
a
a
really
thing?
good personal
No way.
statement. Berkeley just doesn't. Well, Berkeley didn't. Don't ask me about this cycle. But when I was applying, and then the current first years, the OAT wasn't required.
Man, I might go reapply. Shoot.
Absolutely not. Doug. I forbid
Yes, but
you.
no. But then that goes back to the seesaw method, right? So if you take away the OT, then your GPA better be like up there. Otherwise, you got nothing else you're competing on.
That's true.
Exactly.
You better just go back to the monkey bars.
Exactly.
Cheater tot.
Yeah, there we go. We're on
When
the
I
monkey
was
bars
in
now.
school, they brought up my old GPA and my OAT a lot, actually. Isn't that weird?
Who brought that up? What do you mean?
Like because you'd have to meet with your counselor sometimes if you like you had like advisors and they'd be like, hey, you're not really doing that well in this class. You have a C. And I'd be like, okay, that's a great. C's get degrees. Like, I'm good. But then they'd be like, why do you think you're getting such low grades? And I was like, okay, it's just this one class. Can you guys relax? But they'd be like, oh, okay, well, I see that your undergrad GPA wasn't that good. Do you think that's why? But why do you think that your OAT scores were so good? Do you think that that's going to correlate to your board scores? And I was just so confused. Like, why are we bringing back the past? This is just different. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just better at these standardized tests than in class. I don't know why, just the way that it is. But yeah, they would bring that up a lot. I don't know why. I think some schools measure it differently, right? They just put more emphasis on these things than others.
It's very interesting. I don't know.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay,
Well,
so we
let's
have
start
one
a
last
speed
question
round.
then.
Oh, one last question. All right.
Last
Perfect.
question. The last question is, let's pretend we're already accepted into optometry school. What is the advice that you would give to someone to survive optometry school the next 4 years? JD, go ahead.
Form a study
I feel
group.
like this needs a whole podcast of
I know,
optometry school,
I
right?
know.
Yeah.
How
where
to
do we-
I
survive.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could
could make
speed
it
round it and try our best. Rule number one, spontaneous rule number one would be try different study methods until you find one that works. One could be group study, one could be individual reading, one could be recording audio, one could be watching the videos. Try these different methods until you find what works for you. Number two is find a good group of individuals, maybe your parents, family, friends, whatever it may be, to talk through situations when it gets dark. It's going to get dark. So you need that light. Those would be my top two things. Have a good community around you and try to be smart about how you're studying, and even reach out to your faculty, because really they want to help you. They've been through what you've been through, and I think it's easy to antagonize, but I think you should see them as your teammates and try to utilize their help. What about you, Nadia? What do you think?
Everything you just said, that's it. That's what I would say. It seems like you just took the words right out of my mouth. That's it.
Fair enough. From
I would say differently from that. I would just add, take breaks. Like, it's okay to take a breather, to go out, go eat, go to the beach, go enjoy sometimes. Take breaks. I know a lot of people who like never went out or never did anything, and they still failed classes, and I never failed a class in optometry school. So definitely take breaks. Like, that's necessary too. Mental health is important, and you definitely need to relax. Like, I got a little gray hairs, from the stress, but outside of that, take breaks. It's important.
so also pick a school that has a beach. Is that what I'm hearing, Doug?
Oh, wow, man.
100%. Come to Puerto Rico. You
I was
definitely
looking
get
for
to
the
go
beach
to
in
the beach.
Arizona. I just couldn't see it.
Dang.
Yeah.
I never went to the beach, and I lived in California, so
Personal
Really?
problem.
She just
I'm
wanted
in
to
Northern
use it instead
California.
and called it a day.
surprised that nobody asked about like interviews and stuff. That wasn't any of the questions, but
It was a question, but
Let's
we kind of go
let's
on
do a
our-
speed round. How about you ask us each a
Speed
question
round?
and we'll go quick.
Okay, Nadia, answer the interview question. What is your interview tips?
depends on the interview. So I don't know if this is still a thing anymore, but they were studentdoctors.com. Do people still use that?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I think it's .net.
Right. Yeah. Something like that. And I would go on and read what people's interviews were like because people would write on there. So I had an idea of if it was going to be a closed file interview, what kind of questions they were asked and things like that. So shout out to people who write on there because I had a good idea of knowing what to expect when I went in. So doing the research on what schools expect, what kind of interview it's going to be. Sometimes it's a group and you're thrown off because there's like 4 people there. Sometimes it's one-on-one. So just knowing kind of what you're walking into for me is important because I need to like practice and imagine things and get into my head of how it's going to go. So if you can just do the research on that, in my opinion.
Okay. Doug, what would you tell people for someone who doesn't know on how to choose an optometry school? Let's say you got accepted into 4 or 5. What are your tips? How do you pick an optometry school?
Well, see what they have to offer, what they specialize in. Every school has like an emphasis of what type of thing they do, like research or classes. Also location. Think about location, where you want to be. And in terms of also going back to subspecialties, like my school has Spanish incorporated. So that was one reason why I chose Puerto Rico, because I'm from California and I wanted to get more proficient and become the essence of fluent in Spanish to be able to help the patients and communicate. So all of those things are very important.
JD, go ahead and tell us what's worst, first or second year?
Oh,
Like second year, I would say. There's that adjustment period in the beginning, and definitely don't want to underrate that. But second year, at least at Midwestern, and I think it's similar for all, is where you first year you build upon anatomy, see the basics of the eye, and then second year build upon what's wrong with the eye. And so disease, they throw everything at you, and it can be overwhelming. And I think that's the real test. Second year is a monster.
I think we're gonna do a whole thing about optometry school.
We
someday.
will. We definitely will.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll wrap it up with my advice for optometry school. I would say just be kind to yourself, just because, especially in first year.
take showers, right?
Everything. Yeah, take showers. No, I'm serious. Sometimes you're so stressed out that people don't shower.
If you guys don't know, if you didn't see her story yesterday, she was saying about how like she makes to-do lists, and one of
I
the
do.
things on there is take a shower, brush your hair.
Yeah, no,
That's perfect.
no, it's because, like I said on my story, at least Doug was watching it. One person watched it.
Dang, not real
But-
friends. I'm a real one.
Watch it. No, I
Oh, you
don't
watched-
remember it, actually.
Oh, she
It was
did
too
not
smelly.
listen to it. She just. Okay. But in my defense, like, you know, those days in optometry school where it's just so overwhelming, you just don't study, you don't do anything, and you don't feel like productive. But if you had showering on your to-do list, you can check that off because hopefully you showered and now you feel like you did something that day.
Wow, what an interesting
That's
perspective.
very
It
interesting.
is, and it's
'cause
like a form of self-care too, because it's like, oh, I don't have time for self-care. No, if you took a shower, that is self-care. Like, you don't have to do a whole face mask or do your whole nails. That might take too long, right? Because you're stressed out with school.
Oh,
But you took a shower, and that you should be like, or at least I take it as a like, hey, you took a shower, you're taking care of yourself, you're doing good. You're
Do you
doing good.
study in
Keep
the
going.
shower? Do you take like your notes in there?
No.
no,
I put on
notes,
music. and
paper
it's-
notes in the shower.
No, I take my iPad.
Does your iPad have like a special cover on it?
Yeah, what kind of?
wild.
You don't have this. Wow, that's crazy.
I was like taking notes. I was like, no. I don't know any of these terms. I gotta study. There's
We
no
might
time
need
for
a
that.
whole episode just on self-care,
Yeah,
Actually, like mental health.
mental health,
we
self-care.
do.
Kind of needed.
It really is.
Don't
All
forget
right,
the shower, guys.
so we're gonna.
I'm gonna put that on my to-do list.
Good.
I just feel like
I'm
that
glad
should be
everyone-
automatically incorporated. Why is that on your list? Is it just the essence of checking off something? Yeah.
Doug, are you questioning me if I shower every day?
That's what I might be getting at. I think we need to know how many times
No, I shower
do you
every
shower every
day.
day?
every day. I gotta say, I smell good often.
Perfect.
Just don't
Did I
use
smell
too
good in
much
San
Axe.
Diego? Yes or no?
I don't
Speed
remember
round, yes or
seeing
no?
you shower. I mean, like not personally,
Oh,
but
honestly, I don't know if I ever saw her go to the bathroom. Right? Nadia, did you?
Yeah.
think back
Yeah.
when that would have happened.
I at least
maybe-
smelled you on
maybe
Thursday. I
because-
didn't smell you Saturday, so I.
I didn't see a to-do list. I only saw those cards that Doug brought that were all over the Airbnb. That's all I remember.
You got to promote
You know
your
what?
business, promote your brand, promote yourself
Promote yourself to who? To who?
to
The
To-
Airbnb?
to the Airbnb.
Everybody at the
Anyone
Airbnb.
else? Yeah, anyone who needs optometric services, I can recruit. I got you.
Of course.
You need a job?
I'm just gonna throw out there that maybe you guys don't remember because you were, not physically there.
When was I'm like
The
was I
shower?
mentally there?
No, yeah, mentally, physically. Like,
I remember
when
being
I
there more
shower,
than
I
you
have
guys
the door
were there,
closed.
So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know about this.
Yeah, Nadia was definitely house mom, just house sitting the whole time. Never went anywhere.
I was enjoying my championship medal, Doug.
Oh,
from
let's
beer-
not
I
go
just
there.
want to say
Let's
that still the reigning champion, me and Lipna. Shout out to you and Marshawn lost pretty bad, if I remember correctly. Anyway,
Rematch coming soon at the next
I remember
academy.
that.
Okay.
Pre-optometry, this is what happens post-optometry and towards the end. So,
Yeah.
Getting into the whole optometry school, I got a lot to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we did talk a little bit about optometry school because, like, the pre-optometry students, they want to hear what we say about optometry school, but we'll definitely have our own optometry school podcast.
Pre-optometry students, keep listening, keep watching. We got y'all. We'll give you all the ins and outs. That's what we do. It's the depth perception podcast. We're going to in depth, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I haven't applied in a while, but I'll answer any questions.
DM us.
Okay, well, we'll see you guys at the next podcast. You can follow us on social media. Nadia, what are those social media links? What are we again?
Or like the podcast?
Mine's right there.
The depth perception or each individually? I am Dr. Nadia on
Doug?
Instagram.
Mine is OD_fresh06.
JD?
Optoturban.
Optoturban, my boy.
And I'm future Dr. Nunez. Follow us on our podcast. We're on Apple, Google, what is it?
Should I say it really fast? You have to say it really fast.
Apple, Anchor, Google, Spotify.
Apple, Anchor, Google, Spotify.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye.